Pulisic. Towards Havertz. It hits the bar and it's put in by Raheem Sterling. Havertz got a piece of it. It's in. Serge Aurier.
Yeah, got the reaction in the end from Steve Cooper. He's got to be pretty happy with the points, all things considered, against a top side in Chelsea. The breakdown, 12 shots to 7. 9 of those 12 shots from Forest came in a much improved second half performance from them. Just 1 of Chelsea's 7 shots came in that second period. Expected goals edged by Forest as well. More touches in the opposition box. They won the ball high up the pitch as well, but possession was dominated by Chelsea, as you'd expect. But this has been the formula for Forest of late. At home, they had 25% in the win over Liverpool and 31% in the win over Crystal Palace. It seems to be working for them, that tactic. It's 5 unbeaten now here at the City Ground, but they're not yet quite out of the bottom 3. Was a point about right, Graham, or did they deserve more?
They could easily have won it. I think the way the game panned out, as I saw it, they had a game plan to let Chelsea come on to them. When you do that, you're playing counter-attacking football, you can appear to be passive. And I thought that's what they were in the first half, without Chelsea really being too threatening.
Ryan Yates said it himself, didn't he?
And the second half, they became more aggressive. They decided, we're 1 down, let's take the game to them. And Chelsea couldn't deal with their aggression. Chelsea looked powder puff. And for me, I bet their 5-a-sides are great on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. But that's where you have to stand up. And you have to stand up to, a team that's fighting for its life. And you know before a ball is kicked, before the whistle, they're going to be aggressive to you. And Chelsea don't have the equipment to deal with that. That'll happen. Other managers watching that today will look at Chelsea and think, we can get amongst them. We can ruffle their feathers.
Let's use the term lightweight. Do you agree with Graham in that sense about Chelsea?
I wouldn't use the word lightweight, but I would agree that it was far from good enough. You know you're winning 1-0. You know second half, Forest needs to do something. You know that they're going to be or more aggressive or more direct, or they need to do something. And you need to be able to cope with that. You need to put the tempo up. You need to go and score that second goal. But it never looked like they wanted to score the second goal. What really worries me is that they don't create chances. That worries me, You have to come here and win here. It doesn't matter how. You have to come here and win here. Bottom of the league.
But not everybody does. Liverpool didn't.
No, Liverpool didn't. But forget about Liverpool. You're talking about yourself now, Chelsea. You're talking about Chelsea. You need to come here and boss the game and beat them, And if you draw, then their best man has to be Henderson, and that hasn't happened. He hasn't had no work. Nothing has been done by him today. The most he has done is kicking the ball up top. And that is the worry for me.
But I think you all felt probably that Chelsea were in control and dominated that first half. So what happened, Jamie? Why was it so different?
I think second half, Aurier went up as a central striker. It needed it. In the first half, you sensed there was an atmosphere in the crowd, but they wanted something to happen. Aurier was playing on the left. It wasn't really getting involved in the game as much. You had Gibbs White and Brennan Johnson sort of as a 2 up front. And as soon as he moved up as a central striker, you had a focal point. You had someone you could play off. You had all of a sudden, a bit of disruption. Thiago Silva didn't look as comfortable. Koulibaly really struggled with him. And that was a massive change of the whole atmosphere. All of a sudden, the crowd get up. You start to get a few second balls. You get shots from outside the box. Everything changes. And that was a massive thing for me. And once we look at if we can look at those moments, it makes such a difference, because I think that was really, really important. And that changed everything second half from Nottingham Forest's point of view.
Well, let's have a look at that first, Jamie. We'll come back to the goals, because it is a really significant change in the game.
This is where he was playing, and you can see it was too easy. Koulibaly there, no problem. This is obviously in the first half. He's picking it up in a good area, but there's no one in the box. This is the sort of thing he wants, that delivery, and he wants to be coming onto that. Straight away, second half, there you go. You've got a focal point. He's pinning Koulibaly. He's getting at him. He's causing problems. This is a nice piece of play. Good bit of movement. They find him free. He's a little bit unlucky. perhaps could have let it run to his teammate, but it got an atmosphere, Jimmy, didn't it? You could see that you had that focal point.
But that is his strength. He wants to feel people. He wants to do this, the hustle and bustle. That is where his strength is. You know, facing the goal and running at defenders. It's not always the prettiest, but it was really effective. And
it's effective, and it looks like defenders don't want to play against him when he's in that position.
Well, Koulibaly definitely didn't want to play against him.
This is his touch map in the first half. You can see it there. No touches inside the box. Second half, the manager makes a decision to play him up as more of a central striker. Straight away, you can see there's touches in the box. It's just what you need. The crowd respond. Everything then changes.
That was more to do with them having a right goal. They became super aggressive, and Chelsea couldn't deal with it. Now Chelsea, you know, looking at each other during that second half, thinking, you know, we're getting bullied here.
So do you think there'll be?
Do you think though, Graham? You say that's been to do with more aggressive, but do you not think sometimes if you play with a two wide and you're not really playing as a central striker, false nine as we call it, all of a sudden he goes up, it gives you something.
If you look at the touch map, most of it is still his work is still coming in from the left-hand side, even in the second half, and they weren't utilising him. He is a big, strong man, and if you say, what is your asset? He said, I want to take people on physically, and he can do that, and he really did that. Koulibaly was looking over his shoulder. Azpilicueta was looking at Koulibaly. They were looking at each other. They were just far more aggressive. You know, you're talking about tactics and formations, but this is the way I was educated.
But that is a tactical point, isn't it? That is a tactical point.
The first thing you have to do is get to the ball first and be aggressive. And in the first half, as I've said already, they were passive. They had a game plan to bring them onto them and try and catch them on the break and use your man's pace and strength. And it wasn't really
in the first half.
Jamie, it wasn't threatening. Tactically bolder from the manager from the outside.
It's not bold.
What comes first?
It's just simplified.
It's just making sense.
But what comes first?
What do you mean?
Without that aggression being first to the ball, tactics
surely the game plan comes first, doesn't it?
No, the first thing you have to be in professional football is aggressive and get after the team you're playing against.
Yeah,
they didn't do that. They had a game plan to sit off them in the first half, and it wasn't working.
But I also think, Graham, when you're a midfield player, you're a wide man, you see a bit of a focal point. You can see that straight away you're getting hold of the ball. They didn't do that in the first half. No. Second half,
I didn't see him as a big lump centre forward pinning centre halves.
Do you not? Second half. Do you not think so?
If you show
we can see his touch map there. It's completely different. He touched it 10 times in the box. He didn't touch it.
That's his strength.
I've said his strength is when it's one against one, taking someone on physically. But when we're looking at the excerpts and the things where they got the real threat from, it was still him coming in from the left, cutting inside Azpilicueta, bullying Koulibaly. He was a handful. But I'll come back to it. The first thing you have to get right in professional sport, whatever it is be aggressive to the guys you're in a game.
Is that where the equaliser came from, Jimmy? Was it just a question of, in that moment, that Forest wanted to win that ball more than Chelsea?
It's a combination. It's bad defending here. Everybody's looking at the ball, forgetting about Aurier there. Yes, he picks it up really well on his chest and have a halfway overhead kick. But look where Azpilicueta is going. You know, he's concentrating on the ball. If you just stay with your man, he doesn't score. As simple as that. He can't score from there. Yes, you can all say Aurier, good goal, but it could have been defended.
Well, it's a really good finish as well.
Improvises beautifully. Look at the ball spinning. He manages to drop his shoulder. It's a lovely side volley.
Really high.
Well, we saw a good volley by Gibbs White, didn't we? Very similar sort of technique. He just try to keep it down. We see so often, you know, forwards blaze it over the bar, improvise perfectly.
Let's go back to the Chelsea goal that started things off here at the City Ground this afternoon. And would you reflect on this, Jimmy? This is just bad luck if you're from a Forest perspective.
Yeah, bad luck, but also bad defending from Bolly. I think he can just clear the ball better. It's not determined enough. But then you have a little bit of luck and Sterling, great finish, good finish. No time to think, not easy, half volley, and he puts it well away.
Made it look easy. Made the finish look very easy.
Yeah.
That is not
easy.
The ball's on the rise when it comes to him. Look,
boom.
Not easy at all.
Here, he can he can open up his body instead of backheeling it. Unlucky, but lucky for Sterling and Bosch. Yeah.
So do you think a point gained for Forest or two drop for Chelsea?
It's a great point. You got 1-0 down at half-time, you turn it round, and the performance, the crowd, the atmosphere, you've beaten Liverpool here, you've got a result against Chelsea. I think you'd be absolutely delighted to look at the results the weekend. Went pretty well for them. that's a really big point for them. It really gives you something to go on now.
Let's get the manager's perspective then, because Steve Cooper is with Jeff Shreeves.
Steve, pleased to come back from a goal down, or coming away thinking we could have had all 3 points there?
Bit of both, because you're playing Chelsea, you have to accept that. I thought tactically we were really good in the game, first and second half. Just first half we weren't aggressive enough with our press. We were waited a little bit too long before we went after the ball. You can't just go after the ball against Chelsea, because you'll get played through too much and the game will become too open and it'll be a dangerous game. But at the same time, you've got to you still got to go after the ball at the right time. And in saying that, I think we're unlucky with the goal. It hits the bar and could go anywhere and drops onto Raheem's right foot. But second half, we were just much more aggressive with our press, much more aggressive with our duels, and at least we deserved. We were the better team for me in over the course of the game. You look at the amount of real chances in the game. Even first half, where I thought we were a bit too passive, we still created the chances of the half, and and on the basis of that, a point is the least we deserve. But we should take a bit of spirit from the performance. We should take a bit of, I think, internal credit for the work that we're doing, or the players are doing, and we move on now.
Perhaps is that a measure of progress you're making, that you're a little bit disappointed with just a point?
Well, you want to go into to try and win every game, especially here, and you have to respect the opponent. Like I said, it's Chelsea, and world class players all over the pitch. So you do have to have some sort of plan to get a good impact in the game, and I thought we did. If somebody said we were going to create that many chances against them, and good chances, Morgan nearly scores as well, isn't he, from excuse me, the edge of the box, then you would take that. And like I said, the real saves in the game was in the Chelsea goal, not in ours. And the goal that they did score, I think, was slightly unfortunate. There's always things you can do better, and I will always look at that. But the goal was never coming. I know they had the territory. The change was just being a bit more aggressive and really, believing in the press, believing in the combat, and we showed a bit more quality actually on the turnovers and sustainability up the pitch. And we should be pleased we were the better team. We should be pleased that, like you said, that we should have won, but we didn't. But we will accept the point, and we will take the good and the learnings from it and move on now to Southampton.
That point. That performance as well, how much would that help you going into the next 4 games? Teams all around about you, straight up Southampton, who are below you.
Well, it's step by step, Jeff. We will never look too far ahead, and not even past the next game. So, and we didn't even think about Southampton before today. So all focus now is on recovery. Southampton have got an extra day than us. We've got to travel there, but then things won't bother us. You could see there was 1 or 2 other things against us today as well, which seems to be a bit of the norm. But that got the atmosphere going in even more in the stadium as well. We will recover. We will look at the game back and go to Southampton now, starting from scratch with hopefully a good plan to go to work.
And remain active in the January sale?
Yeah, I think so. Hope so. I'll work day by day with the players that are coming through the training ground, but trusting the club to get to work. And if there's some things we think can help the team and the squad and what we need, then we will do that. You say it a little bit through gritted teeth because of what went on in the summer, and there's that sense of Forest signing players again, but the summer was the summer. You have to just look at where we're at now. We've picked up some injuries, some long-term injuries as well since the summer to key players. And I said to you before, Jesse's out for a month now. So, if we can add the right players in the right positions, then we'll need to do that, and we'll want to do it as well.
Thanks, Steve.
You too. Thanks.
Sounds like we need to be across the transfer activity of Nottingham Forest in the coming weeks. But will they reflect that they did have the chances enough to win this game today?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to show the technique of
Gibbs White in a
Johnson
moment.
when the ball comes back to him. I mean, they're great chances.
What about this one? Brennan Johnson goes through on goal.
He's got to
One
square
is
this.
making up ground.
He's got to square this. Yes,
I think he can't, Graham, because Silva does really well.
This over Silva, watch. Just think over his leg.
Yeah, difficult. I think Silva does so well, knows exactly that he has got somebody behind him.
What about this technique, though? I've seen you score a couple of great volleys, Jim.
A few.
Well, the whole move here, though, the way they put the passes together.
Yeah, but this...
Slightly behind them. It doesn't get any better than that for technique.
And this is the difference with Aurier's goal. Aurier, you can stop that. This you can't stop.
Drops his shoulder.
Drop the shoulder, bang. And he is so unlucky.
He's let the ball come slightly behind him so he can get his knee over it. It's just perfect.
We all had eyes on the referee at that point, seeing if his watch was going to vibrate. It didn't happen. Forest fans were certainly hoping that it was going to. We heard from Steve Cooper alluding to that game that's dawning on the horizon. It's a big game against bottom of the table Southampton. It's been a very tricky start for Nathan Jones, who's lost his first 3 games in charge there. It does feel like that is a big game, Jamie, before the cup matches that are coming up.
Absolutely, but also you look at the home games where, you know, Leicester to come here, Leeds to come here, huge games, Bournemouth away, Fulham, you know, they've got some really important games.
Could this next 6 weeks tell us a lot about their season, do you think?
It will, but there's so many positives from today. I thought Gibbs White was fantastic from minute 1. He's a sort of player that you've got to keep him fit. He obviously had that little calf injury. He's such an important player for them. Willy Bolly's come in and done a good job as well as a defender. So I think they looked... They gave me enough hope today that you feel that they can certainly survive, and they've got enough armoury in there as well.
But can they strengthen? Should they strengthen again? But well, I heard a different interview with Steve Cooper talking about the fact that if they were going to sign players, he wanted players that were going to improve the first team, not bulk the squad out.
Well, I hope they ask him before they sign a player, you know, and that it is partly his decision, and also they listen to him what he thinks that they need.
How many of that 23 do you think they asked him, do you fancy this one or not?
It's a great question.
Who can answer that question? Steve Cooper could, perhaps.
Well, he can't really answer it truthfully, can he?
Yeah. Gibbs White for sure. That was his.
Yeah,
signing,
he knows that.
He knew him. He had him as an under-18 England national.
Right,
great signing.
Right, 22 then.
He talked a lot about Jesse Lingard as well. But what do you think they need? What should be the priority if they're going to
improve the starting 11? That's what you're saying.
Well, I think they can do some more creativity in midfield. I definitely think that they need a striker, but that is the hardest position to improve.
Everybody needs a striker.
Everybody, exactly. You know, you can't turn back times.
Whatever you get, though, Jim, you've got to trust. You've got to have dialogue with the manager. They also need dialogue between whoever's buying the players and the manager, because they've got to work together. It has to come. This is what I need. Can you deliver me a fullback, a midfielder? I think sometimes it does, but I would trust him. If you're because of the players he has brought in, they've been good.
Is that not the normality?
No, there was a strange. You know, they get promoted. You know, when he came here, we're the bottom of the league or near the bottom of the league.
Yeah.
And they went on this most incredible run. So they get promoted late on. At what point did the people who make decisions here start looking at new players because we're going to be in the Premier League? I would suggest that had to be very late, and I would suggest
it did because they went through the playoff route.
Yeah. So that tells you that there was no long-term planning. You know, you're not.
It's very hard to do that, Graham, in that situation.
No. The big teams, the teams that are in the Premier League, have long-term planning. But the point I'm making is to go and sign 23 players. At what point do they start looking at those players and who was making the decision? Normally, the way it works, the manager says, "Look, you've been a manager. The way it works, I'm a manager. I need a midfield player of this type, a striker of this type, maybe a fullback of this type." I don't think any of those conversations took place.
No.
He was given 23 players.
But if you're a good director of football, you make 2 plans. You make 2 plans from way back. When you're seeing things are going well, you keep it quiet. You make 2 plans. You make 1 plan of going up, 1 plan that you're going to stay in the championship.
But how much of the conversation did the manager
you start already talking to agents?
How much of the conversation was he involved in?
Well, I think not a lot of conversations because of how they...
We don't know that. We don't know.
Because of... we don't know that, but how they do things here.
And you can make all the plans in the world, Jimmy, can't you? But you know that signing players is a different matter sometimes.
It's different, but I don't think that Cooper is somebody that would want to sign 22 players.
No,
these players have done it for him. He would want to keep that group nice and together. That's what won them the league.
But as Steve Cooper always said, they were always going to lose a number of players, 4 or 5, because of the loan deals that they'd had, contracts running out.
23 players. 23 players.
23. Yeah.
23 players. Come on.
He's had them for 5 months. He will not know today really what he's got in those 23. He'll have an idea, I would say, 20, 30, maybe as many as 50%. The other 50%, because you don't want to be chopping and changing all your team just to find out what you've got. They're in a dogfight.
But at the turn of this year, a dogfight, yes, and I accept that. But at the turn of this year, do they have a fighting chance? You would say
definitely,
they do.
Definitely,
staying up.
Definitely. So it comes back to where we started. The manager has to sit down and be part of the conversation about what we actually need. You talk about players that can come in and improve their starting 11 when everyone's fit. That's what you must have, not just more numbers.
Match winners.
Better players.
Match winners.
No quantity.
Well, as we said, everybody's looking for them, aren't they? Including the teams that are around Forest right now. But yeah, it's Southampton up next on Wednesday before the FA Cup break, and we're not quite at the halfway stage of the season. But as we said before, from Leeds down to Southampton, only 4 points difference. It's all to play for.
But Leeds had a great point, didn't they, the weekend? Everton picked up a point I don't think anybody expected. Apart from that, you look at West Ham, obviously, lost, Wolves lost, Southampton lost. The results have been pretty good for them. But they've just got to hang in there. I've been in a relegation fight before. It's no fun, but you just got to make sure you pick up points sometimes when you least expect it. And I think they're certainly capable. It's going to go right down to the wire, make no mistake.
We got another example yesterday of how fantastic the Premier League is. Nobody would have given Everton a hope yesterday. They've gone there and dug a result out. You will show, graphics about this is the next 6 games for whoever. And it's our job to say, well, that's difficult. That'll be a win. It is impossible. And that makes our competition so special. Where is your football thinking here when it comes up eventually? Surely your priority, 274 million. Fofana, 75 million. Cucurella, 62 million. Raheem, and City got goals, but not at outstanding levels. Koulibaly, 34 million. I mean, surely a priority when you're letting Timo Werner go and you're letting Lukaku go is to go and get a striker from somewhere.
I take your point, but yeah, but they're not.
I take your point, but they still had to go. Yes, they do have to have a replacement.
But they're trying to get Lukaku. That's a player they're after. Whether they're going to get him, I'm not sure.
Rudiger's just left as well on a free transfer.
So
that was bad business.
Then you look at Koulibaly, wouldn't you, and say he would be a replacement. They were trying to replace him, and then Fofana was obviously an opportunity of a young player. And
what's the average age of that back four today?
I would ask this question, Jamie. What's the average age of those signings? Yes, there are the exceptions of Koulibaly and Aubameyang, but I'm sure they would say, it might look like a scattergun approach to you, Graham, but they might say, well, we're just trying to invest in the best talent from around the world. They've added another couple. We've got Fofana on that list there, who is here today. Badio Chile, who's coming from Monaco. It looks like Andre Santos, another 18-year-old from Vasco da Gama. So maybe there is a long-term project which might involve some short-term damage.
Will that help the current manager?
Well, it might be the fact that they're giving him a long contract and say, away you go. Yeah,
I mean, Chelsea historically don't mess around when it comes to changing manager. Different owner,
but it wasn't when they first took over. Tuchel didn't last long, did it?
Let me return to this conversation.
Is that a good business plan then, being out of the top 4? Because you can buy the young players, but you still have to be in the top 4.
I think it's a really interesting conversation. I want to expand that in just a moment. But
guarantee.
First, let's hear from the Chelsea manager, Graham Potter, who's giving his thoughts on today's game with Jeff Shreves.
Graham, what's your take on that?
Well, in the end, it's a hard-earned point against a team that's set up well. I think credit to them. They used the atmosphere, and certainly second half put us under a lot of pressure the first part of the second half. Our performance level wasn't good enough, I don't think, to take the 3 points. When we had control of the game, we didn't move the ball fast enough. There wasn't enough movement for us. And then when we lost control of the game, we suffered a bit. So we rallied a little bit second half in the second part of the second half, and Pierre has a good chance at the end. But I think that would have been unfair to take the 3 points.
What was missing for you, think, today?
Well, like I said, I thought when we had control of the game, we didn't do enough with that. We didn't move the ball fast enough and have enough movement. And then when the game became a bit more uncontrolled, we suffered with the duels and struggled to deal with that aspect of the game. So in the end, it's a tough game. As much as we can be critical of ourselves, I have to say that Nottingham Forest played a good game as well. But yeah, we're disappointed with our performance level, I think, over the course of the 90 minutes, and can say that we didn't deserve to win the game with that.
Were you just not strong enough in some parts of the field? Not aggressive enough?
Well, like I said, when it became uncontrolled, they did well. I think it probably suited them better than us, and that's something that we have to deal with and we have to improve. I think they attack the big spaces so well. You can end up close to their goal, and then all of a sudden a mistake or a missed pass, and then they've got some real pace and with a false nine dropping in there, linking up, it can cause you a problem. So you never feel comfortable. But still, we can do better.
Just 2 shots on target today. Is that a concern?
Yeah, always. But again, like I said, a combination of our performance level and the opponent.
Now, as we understand it, plenty of business being done elsewhere today. Obviously, you're taking the team today. So can you enlighten us in any way whatsoever regarding new signings? We're told in particular Benoit Badiashile has a medical due tomorrow. Can you help us at all?
No, until somebody's told me that anybody's been signed, it'd be unfair of me to comment. I've been focused on the team. I have no updates. Sorry.
Going back to right now, how much of a scrap have you got on your hands for a Champions League place?
Well, I think for us it's about the next game and trying to improve. We've got a long way to go in terms of how we want the team to look and the performance level. So for us, I think it'd be a mistake for us to worry about what can happen in 5 months' time. We need to focus on the next match and get our performance level better and more consistent. And that's the process. That's what we have to do.
How quickly can you do that? Get what you want?
Well, it's how long's a piece of string. It's the beauty of football. We have to. Of course, it would help if we get our players back in terms of the key ones, and then you can start to build some consistency in terms of selections. But we took a step forward against Bournemouth. Today was a little bit of a backwards one, but again, not an easy place to come, and the opponent played a good game, I think.
Thanks, Graham.
Thank you.
A reminder of where they find themselves right now. 16 games into the season, not even at the halfway stage, but they are 8th. And they are 3 points behind Liverpool, who found some momentum. And they're in 6th. 5 behind Spurs with a game in hand, and 7 behind Manchester United, who, again, a team who've really returned with a bit of sparkle from the World Cup, who find themselves in 4th place right now. Do you think, well, judging by the predictions at the start of the programme, Jimmy, it hasn't changed very much. You don't think Chelsea are a realistic bet for top 4 right now?
No, I think that they're too far from the top 4. I think, yes, they do miss some really important players, James, Kante, Chilwell, but those are more defensive-orientated players.
So let me ask you a different type of question then on Chelsea. What do you think that Graham Potter needs to achieve this season just to keep the pressure away from his door?
He needs to win matches. He needs to win as many matches
as possible. There's always an outcome, isn't there?
Yeah, there's also an outcome.
We all look at and analyse.
Chelsea needs to be in the Champions League.
They need to
try. That's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
They've got a goal difference of +2. It's screaming at you what they need.
Yeah, but also he's had a lot of injuries. You need to give him time. You need if you're going to change in the middle of the season, and all these things are happening, you need to give him a little bit time to mold this team. They cannot be out of the Champions League 2 years in a row. It looks like this year they're going to be out of the Champions League, but he needs to.
He's had 10 Premier League games. He's won 4 of them, lost 3. I think if you were in the Abramovich era, which is what we were so used to, under huge pressure. But because of the new consortium, you just don't know.
Yeah, but that's also not sustainable, eh?
No, but unfortunately, Jimmy,
as
it
a
was
business,
for them.
but as
they
a
won
business,
so much doing it that way.
Abramovich was the club was losing a lot of money.
Yeah,
as a business,
throwing money at this problem,
yes,
Jimmy.
But still, they wanted to be a business.
But right now, and when you look at as a viable business, the academy's produced so many good players in this last 3 or 4 years that have come through that have saved the club fortunes. You look at like Tomori's gone, Guy's gone to Crystal Palace. You've lost, you had Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham. So many young players have come through. Gallagher. So they've also saved themselves so much money.
How many started today that have come through that?
Well, Mount Gallagher came on. Well, also players that have come through the youth team.
It's a hard thing to achieve.
But they have done it.
It's nirvana where you get, you don't spend money. As they're spending money, you bring them through the system. It's hard. Chelsea have been trying to get it right since Abramovich went in there.
But, and it's a very difficult challenge as well, and you'll know this, Graham, trying to find that short-term success that silences critics as well as improving the long-term. It's clearly a long-term plan.
I think Graham Potter needs help. I just hope that he is... They're sitting him down and he is part... Same as Steve Cooper here. Part of the conversation, what is it you need? What do you think you need?
Because this squad is one that he's inherited as well.
Right now,
Well,
that
Kante's
squad
out.
is not equipped to go and win big games of football in a very demanding league because they don't have any strikers. City are plus 28. Arsenal are plus 26. Chelsea, who are that standard of football club, are plus 2. That alone stat tells you where they need help.
There's going to be a massive change as well in this next year or so, because I think Jorginho's out of contract and Kante, whether he signs or not, is still debatable. So there is going to be a lot of changes. So he will need time. There's no point bringing in those players and not giving them time.
But you cannot only buy young players. You have to buy ones that you can that is straight away going to improve.
But don't forget, Thiago Silva's still the best player they've got.
Here you go. You
get the age of him.
Well, whatever happens, there's a really big job ahead here at Chelsea for Graham Potter. We'll revisit that conversation, I'm sure, on Thursday night when they take on Manchester City.